Camilla is likely to be a bit nervous about the upcoming coronation, and that her ex-husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, will also be there. That she's nervous, and what are your thoughts on Andrew attending?
For nearly 30 years, the world believed it knew the story. Camilla Shand married a dashing cavalry officer. Then a prince stole her heart, a princess was destroyed, and a marriage quietly dissolved. End of chapter. But now, at 86, Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles, the man who lost the future Queen of England to the future King, is the last living architect of one of the 20th century's most scandalous love quadrangles. And the story he, his biographers, and decades of court documents tell is nothing like the fairy tale Buckingham Palace wants you to remember. This is what really happened inside that marriage. A marriage built on an ultimatum, not a proposal. To understand why Andrew Parker Bowles divorced Camilla, it's important to know that he never really wanted to marry her in the first place. At least not when he did, and not the way it happened. By the early 1970s, Andrew was one of the most sought-after Catholic bachelors in London. He had trained at Sandhurst, was an officer in the Royal Horse Guards, and was an amateur jockey who had ridden in the 1969 Grand National. His family had close ties to the Queen Mother, and some sources even list her among his godmothers. He was, in every way, connected to royalty before Camilla ever was. Andrew was also known as a heartbreaker. He had famously dated Princess Anne, a relationship highlighted by the series The Crown. Biographer Sally Bedell Smith noted that they could never have married because Andrew was Catholic and Anne was the Queen's daughter. However, their chemistry was strong, and they remained friends for life, which would matter later. Camilla Shand had been in a relationship with Andrew on and off since the late 1960s, when his younger brother Simon introduced them. Andrew loved Camilla, but he also dated many others. Their relationship was, as people said back then, intermittent. In honest terms, he kept cheating, and she kept taking him back. Then came a key moment that changed everything. According to Sally Bedell Smith, the parents of Andrew and Camilla, tired of their constant ups and downs, announced their engagement in the Times without asking either of them. In 1972's aristocratic Britain, a public announcement in the Times was as good as a contract. Andrew felt forced to propose. He proposed, she accepted, and on July 4, 1973, they married at the Guards Chapel in Wellington Barracks, with 800 guests, including Princess Anne and Princess Margaret. What most guests didn't know was that Camilla had briefly been romantically involved with Prince Charles. In early 1973, Charles was away with the Royal Navy. Many royal historians believe this was partly because the Queen Mother and Lord Mountbatten didn't see Camilla as a suitable future queen. While Charles was at sea, their parents announced in the Times. So, their marriage began with two shadows hanging over it. Princess Anne, the woman Andrew had truly loved but could never marry, and Prince Charles, the man Camilla had genuinely cared for but could not marry. Both were locked into a Catholic ceremony for reasons more about social pressure than love. This is the foundation of everything else that followed, and foundations like that don't last long. The open secret, Andrew's long list of other women. The key reason for the eventual divorce is not about Charles. It's about Andrew Parker Bowles, who took part in many affairs during his marriage to Camilla, including with several of her friends. In upper-class British society during the 1970s and 80s, some infidelity was often expected from men. However, Andrew was not discreet and flaunted his affairs. In his social circle, he earned the nickname the Brigadier, suggesting he always had a new partner. The pattern was clear early on. By the late 1970s, Camilla and Andrew had moved to Middlewick House and had two young children. Tom, born in December 1974, and Laura, born on New Year's Day 1978. Andrew was often away for military duty in places like Northern Ireland and Rhodesia, and served in London during key events like the 1982 Hyde Park bombing. Despite being a brave soldier, he also behaved like a charming aristocrat known for having affairs. Camilla was aware of Andrew's actions, as were many others. Some of her friends were even involved with him. Multiple royal biographers have noted that Camilla tolerated Andrew's behavior as a strategic choice, not because she was a wronged wife. She loved him, her children, and her life in the countryside. She did not want to be the divorced woman who ruined everything. It's important to note that Andrew's affairs started long before Camilla rekindled her relationship with Prince Charles. Royal sources agree that Charles and Camilla began their romance again around 1986, 13 years into Andrew and Camilla's marriage. By then, Andrew's affairs were not new. They were part of the foundation of their marriage. This detail is often overlooked in popular stories. Many believe Camilla cheated with Charles and Andrew was wronged, which caused the marriage to fail. The truth is messier. Andrew had been unfaithful almost since their wedding day. After over a decade of being publicly embarrassed by Andrew's many affairs, Camilla let herself reconnect with the man she had loved before she married Andrew. The marriage was already falling apart long before Charles came back into Camilla's life. The Charles affair and Andrew's humiliation. Why did Camilla's affair with Prince Charles lead to the end of Andrew's marriage, even though Andrew himself was unfaithful for years? The answer is simple: humiliation. Royal insiders have often described Andrew's feelings in the early 1990s with this word. Officially, Andrew and Camilla grew apart and divorced amicably. In reality, the situation is more complicated. Andrew felt deeply humiliated, not just because of the affair, which he had suspected for a long time, but because it became a major public scandal. Two events made the affair impossible to ignore. First, Andrew Morton's 1992 book, Diana, Her True Story, highlighted Diana's views on Charles and Camilla's relationship, drawing widespread attention. Second, in early 1993, the Camillagate tape was leaked. This tape, recorded in 1989, captured an intimate, embarrassing phone conversation between Charles and Camilla and was published in many tabloids in January 1993. Imagine being Andrew Parker Bowles in January 1993. You are a senior officer in the household cavalry and serve directly under Queen Elizabeth II. Suddenly, your wife's private phone call with the heir to the throne is front-page news worldwide. Your fellow officers, subordinates, and even the Queen have seen it. There is a big difference between private infidelity, which the British upper class has handled discreetly for years, and public humiliation on a global scale. Andrew could deal with the first but not the second, which crushed his pride and career. Things got worse because of the public's reaction. When Andrew had affairs, he was seen as a charming officer. But when Camilla had an affair with Prince Charles, tabloids labeled her the Rottweiler and the third person in Charles and Diana's marriage. Suddenly, Andrew was married to one of Britain's most disliked women. Additionally, Andrew is a devout Catholic. He was educated at Ampleforth College, married Camilla in a Catholic ceremony, and married his second wife in another Catholic ceremony. He managed his own affairs without ending his marriage, which Catholic doctrine could somewhat accept. However, a divorce, especially one linked to such a public scandal, created a bigger spiritual problem. When he decided to divorce, Andrew did not feel wronged. Instead, he felt that the marriage was no longer tenable, too socially toxic, and personally draining. By 1993, he had also met the woman who would become his second wife, Rosemary Pittman. The Princess Anne factor. Almost nobody discusses. Many documentaries about Camilla and Andrew overlook a key point. Andrew Parker Bowles had a close relationship with Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. He dated Anne before marrying Camilla, and Anne is also the sister of the man Camilla was involved with. This isn't just gossip, it's a well-documented part of British royal life. Andrew and Anne dated in the late 1960s, while he was also seeing Camilla. Biographies by Sally Bedell Smith note that they didn't marry because of the Catholic issue, but their bond was real and deep. They remained close friends for decades, to the point where it raised eyebrows within the royal family. One strong indicator of their friendship was in 2010, when Andrew's second wife, Rosemary, passed away. Princess Anne attended Rosemary's funeral, showing loyalty that went beyond what is usually expected. In contrast, Camilla only went to the larger memorial service later on. This connection matters when we consider Andrew and Camilla's divorce. During the 1970s and 1980s, while Andrew served the royal family and engaged in affairs, his friendship with Anne offered him emotional support. Some royal biographers suggest that part of Camilla's frustration in her marriage stemmed from knowing that Andrew's heart was still tied to Anne from the late 1960s. He was unfaithful to a woman he never truly wanted to marry, while Anne was the one he would have preferred. This situation mirrors the love stories of Charles and Camilla, who both married the wrong people before finding each other. Andrew and Anne's story is similar, but without a happy ending. Andrew married Camilla, and Anne married Mark Phillips, and later Timothy Lawrence. Their bond continued as a friendship, not a romance. When Andrew and Camilla divorced in March 1995, they cited the standard reason: their marriage had irretrievably broken down. However, many biographies, such as those by Junor, Smith, and Bauer, reveal that both Andrew and Camilla were in love with someone else for most of their marriage. Camilla loved Charles, and Andrew longed for a life he couldn't have because of religion and birthright. The surprising part isn't that the marriage ended, but that it lasted for 22 years. What actually triggered the 1995 divorce? If the marriage was not strong from the beginning, why did the divorce happen in late 1994 and finalize in March 1995? Why didn't it happen in 1986, when the affair reportedly started again? Why not January 1993, when Camillagate became a big scandal? The answer involves three main reasons. with the third being often overlooked. First, Princess Diana was preparing for her Panorama interview. By mid-1994, the royal family knew she wanted to respond to Charles's televised admission of cheating, which he made in June 1994. Diana's interview with Martin Bashir would air in November 1995, after Camilla and Andrew's divorce was finalized. The royal family wanted to address potential problems before Diana spoke. Camilla, still Andrew's wife, was a significant concern. Second, Andrew had moved on in his personal life. By 1993, he was in a serious relationship with Rosemary Pittman, a divorcee with 3 sons. Rosemary was said to be the love of Andrew's life, and he wanted to marry her. He couldn't do that while still married to Camilla. His Catholic beliefs, which he had been bending for years, now blocked his path to happiness. Third, Andrew's military career was nearing its end. He retired from active service in 1994 after serving as the director of the Royal Army Veterinary Corps. The reason to stay married, to avoid the scandal of a divorced senior officer, disappeared when he left the military. Once he was a civilian, divorce became a personal choice. These 3 reasons, Diana preparing to speak out, Rosemary waiting for him, and the end of Andrew's military career, came together in late 1994. The Parker Bowleses announced their separation in December 1994. The divorce was finalized in March 1995, and Andrew married Rosemary in 1996. Camilla and Charles waited another 9 years to marry in a civil ceremony in 2005, with Andrew attending as a guest. At the time of the separation, the Parker Bowleses released a bland statement citing that they had been living separate lives. They did not mention Charles, Rosemary, or the intense tabloid scrutiny they faced for 3 years. But notice what the statement left out. It didn't say that Andrew was the wronged party. It didn't say that Camilla had cheated. It did not blame either spouse. This careful neutrality was not just polite. It honestly reflected what both partners already knew. Each had betrayed the other for years. Each loved someone else more. They ended their marriage as friends because they had not been anything else for a long time. The friendship that survived. Why Andrew stood in that crowd. If you want the most surprising fact in this story, it isn't the affairs, the wiretapped phone call, or the friendship with Princess Anne. It is this. On May 6, 2023, when Charles became king and Camilla became queen at Westminster Abbey, Andrew Parker Bowles was there. He was a guest, sitting in the Abbey and watching his ex-wife be crowned next to the man she had loved for 50 years. Think about that. The man she divorced 28 years earlier, the man whose relationship with Camilla Charles had disrupted for 2 decades, was invited and present at her coronation as Queen of the United Kingdom. He also attended Charles and Camilla's wedding in 2005, along with his second wife, Rosemary. He goes to royal christenings and family events. Their son, Tom Parker Bowles, has Charles as a godfather. How does this happen? How does a marriage that ended in scandal and public shame turn into a friendly post-divorce relationship that most amicable couples only dream about? Several reasons explain this. First, neither Andrew nor Camilla can claim to be the wrong spouse. Andrew's many public affairs within their social circle made it impossible for him to take the moral high ground. Camilla never tried to do this either. Their divorce settlement was practical. They prioritized their children, and both quickly moved on to new partners they truly loved. Second, it comes down to social class. In the British aristocracy of the late 20th century, the rule was to avoid public fuss, especially about marriage. You handle things privately, move on, and continue attending the same events as before. Andrew followed this code. He never gave interviews to tabloids about Camilla or wrote a memoir. Even at 86, he has not publicly discussed their marriage in detail. This is the irony in this story. Andrew Parker Bowles has not finally revealed why he divorced Queen Camilla, because he is simply not someone who shares private matters. His discretion has allowed their friendship to flourish. If he had ever sold his story to the tabloids, none of this, the coronation, the godfather relationship, the wedding invites, would have happened. What we know about why he divorced Camilla comes from biographers, court records, public timelines, and small hints he has given in interviews about his interest in horses, racing, and the military. Since 2023, he has been reported to be in a relationship with broadcaster Anne Robinson, adding another strong woman to his life. The truth is quieter and sadder than the headlines. 2 people were married for the wrong reasons because they loved others more than they loved each other. When they stopped pretending, they found they actually liked each other a lot, just not as husband and wife.